Hi, guys. Here we are in this open office for you on this live. Today is 18 June 2026. My name is Rui Faria, as you know, and I'm broadcasting you directly from, not in this case from the office, but from our workshop where we do some experiments and also where we prepare some pre advanced work. So, being as a consultant in water in the last years and bringing some more awareness and some shared knowledge with you, with all our content, we decided to create this live events on YouTube, especially to go a little bit deeper on some particular subjects. So we have approached already some difficulties in regarding water treatment, also some knowledge about how to treat, how to use, how to recycle water, and also the importance of water in our daily lives. Now, first of all, and before we go further deeper in this subject, I just want to ask my team if the quality of the image and the sound is appropriate, if it's reaching up to you on a good way, so that we can move on forward. And therefore, I would like you to just put a comment on the chat if everything is okay. Yes, I got that feedback. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, William, so that all of you can get the best of us. But when I speak about the best of us, what are we talking about? And what does water have to teach us? Do we really think that we are the only conscious living being that can transport information? So I can hear something that somebody says to me and I can write it down, send an email or send a message or call somebody and bring that information forward? Are we the only species or the only, how can I put it this way, not only a living element, but is there something else that can transport information, feelings, emotions, and intentions? So that is what I wanted to bring up to you, because the more I try to understand water and not only the importance of water in our lives and also in our planet, the more I get confused, but also the more I get and excited about it. So when we look down to all ancient literature, that people just got a glass of water to nurture their thirst, and we go a little bit deeper and we look that not only religious ceremonies all are involving water in their essence, but also the ancestors, like the indigenous people, like the Aborigine, for instance, in Australia, or the Indians in the south of South America, but also all of the aware or the conscious beings that are more aware, they used water and they consecrated water in the most different ways. So before using water, they kind of like spoke to water so that water could be an element of transport information or collecting information or receiving intention. And so, as you know, we have approached and we have referenced some time ago the work of Mr. Oh, I didn't print it off. But, all of the scientists that have done so many studies about the structure and the frozen structure of the molecule of water and the way it regroups itself. And so, very recently, I came across the work of a lady, and she's from New Zealand, and I spoke about her in our previous Instagram live about the work of Veda Austin, and she's got some books and some experiments done sharing the living language of water. What does this mean? It means that she did some experiments and she went through some healing, and I invite you to go into her website, and she explains everything to you about how she got in contact with the healing powers of water, just natural nature alkaline water, and how she got healed from a very drastic car accident. So what she does is she came across the work of a scientist, that he discovered that what we have been told all our lives and in our schools is that we have the three phases of water in the solid, liquid, and gaseous in steam, and that we've been told that there are only these three forms of finding water in our environment. Now, the studies that have been done scientifically is that we can also find a fourth stage of the water, and that is kind of like a plasma. And that plasma is the regroupment of the molecules of the water in order to get some information or some intention, and that can be easily, and that is what Vida Austin explains and shares in her presentations, in her books, and she also teaches how to do it. So basically, it's getting a proper glass, shallow glass receptor or recipient, put a small quantity of water, and then let it freeze up to the moment that it's not 100% frozen yet, and that the water is like plasma. So it's not 100% liquid, not solid yet. It's there in between. That's the fourth stage. And she did so many beautiful experiments by exposing that water before going into the freezer, the normal conventional household freezer, for a couple of minutes. She says about between 5 and 6 minutes, but I invite you to go deeper, search her website, search her work. There's so much content that she just frees out throughout the world through her social media podcasts and events, that I really invite you, like I am doing. I'm searching, and I'm astonished by this. So by having that piece of water exposed to some intention, some image, or a seed, or a written word, the effect that the plasma does is by regrouping the cells, or the molecules in this case, it kind of like transports to image that you can just take a picture with your cell phone, and you can visualize what water is teaching us or speaking to us. And that is, in her book, The Language of Water. Now, and that is, I find it so fascinating that I had to put a pause on all of our daily worries about water saving, water preservation, recycling of water, mineralizing water, unironing water, whatever you name it. You know what we do, and you know what subjects we normally approach to you. But I wanted to put a pause on. And when we go to like so-called sacred places, and you always find that the water is the element where you can put your intentions, where you can rinse and you can clean yourself from not only the dirt of the road, but also from the energies that you are transporting. And this has nothing to do with religion. This is, in my opinion, has only to do with the power of intention that we can bring up to the water, and the water can be in those four stages. And that in that case, knowing that we are more than 70%, more than 70% water, so that brings up all of the old books that say that The power of the intention that you bring out or inside you when you speak to yourself, when you put your positivity into your own cells. Well, if our cells are more than 90% water, we are totally more than 70% water, but each cell, each living cell has more than 90% water. So if every day we are bringing the positive intentions, then we are actually doing something to ourselves and to whoever is among us, that we are bringing those intentions into something that is alive. Now, that is something that is so profound, and by being so profound, it can reach up and probably go even beyond our knowledge and also beyond our reach. And that is what this work, that each one of us can learn how to do it. Well, I'm not going to try that experiment right now because I'm going to try it myself. And probably next time, once I have the right um, the right tools or the right information how to freeze a part of water that can be exposed to an intention or to a feeling or a word or an element, that I can bring and that I can do that experiment live with you, then I'm certainly going to dedicate some time doing that. But also that we understand that all many other people, influential people that has come across this planet, they intent and they put their intention into the water. And now I can remember that my grandmother used to have the water for drinking in a clay jar, and it was like kept in a place that was for her a sacred place. Now, I'm 51 years of age now, and when I saw that when I was like 7 or 8 years old, it did not say much to me, but I respected that. And when my grandmother said that I could gently and with kindness pour water from that clay jar and drink that water, well, I don't know what my grandmother did with the water when she was keeping that clay jar in that place, because it was always kept in the same place, and that water was so fresh, so refreshing. Maybe it was purely just inside my mind, but now that I read about it, now that I see even from the Vedas, even before Buddha, before Christ, but also like Buddha, Christ, Krishna, you name it, all of the influential people, they honored water, they consecrated water. And in so many places, like I've been in Japan, like you've been following our work, and you can see that before entering any sacred place, does not need to be a temple. Even if it's just a sacred place, you have like a water stream where people could put their intentions and clean out their energies. So that is what I wanted to bring in this life to you, is what is there that water can teach us? Can water be an instrument of peace, knowledge, information, energy, tranquility? All of these questions I'm putting up to you, not that I have the answers. Far from that. I'm searching them right now because, of course, when we go to the lab and we analyze chemically and physically and bacteriologically, we analyze everything that is inside the water, and then we say, as an expert, we can say, okay, if the water has too much iron, we'll remove the iron. If it has too much calcium, we'll remove the calcium. Yes, but what about the emotions? What about the feelings? What about the energetic load that the water may have? Are we capable to reverse that, influence that positively and negatively? So there are so many studies around this subject that go beyond the laboratory, that has nothing to do with the laboratory. Okay, this is pure, I would say, esoteric, or I would say invisible forces that can regroup the structure of the molecules, and then we make it visible once we do some experiments. Well, and I'm very grateful for Veda Austin. I already sent her an email saying that I'm going to refer her work. She does not even know that you or I exist, probably, but she will get that information once she opens her email. So she will know that we're speaking about her work. And because it's a public work, so each one of us can search for how she developed these skills and how she's sharing how you and I can do this in our kitchen. Okay, so if you are interested in knowing more about what water has to teach us, so let's go for it. So that was the subject that I wanted to bring you up. So in this past 16 minutes, I've just been bringing up to you that there is more than analyzing the water chemically and bacteriologically. There's much more in water that we still don't know yet, and that we have to have an open mind and an open heart in order to understand these kind of subjects, like I am exposing myself right now to knowing a little bit more and to get water to inform me. So if you have any questions, please bring them forward. And this was just the introduction that I wanted to do. Now I will try to answer some curiosities or some questions that you may have related to this subject. And as you know, this live is an open office. So if you have any other questions related to some specific theme or some specific subject that you would like to have answered from me, if we have time, I'll certainly answer that. If not, then I'll write it down and I'll come back to it in our next live on YouTube. So I've got here one question that says, and it's written in Portuguese, so I'm going to read it in the back of my mind so that I can rephrase the question in English. So the question is, so is there any difference between the tap water, the bottled water, or spring water beyond the chemical composition, the emotions? Can we consider that as a difference? Well, I'm not the right person to answer that right now, but I believe that when we see a bird free in nature, flying from all around and being completely free, if we ask that bird if he's happier out in the field or if he's more happy if he's put in a cage, inside a cage or a bottle, and even if we give them the right food and the right water for them to drink, can we ask him if that is the same happiness as being completely free out in the wild or being confined in a closed compartment? I don't know. But if I would be a water molecule, I probably would be much happier if I would be free in nature. So that means that if I would be evaporating from the ocean or from the vegetation and surfing around in the cloud, literally, so wandering around up to a moment that I would like to condense myself and get some body and rain down and then gush through the mountains, and probably on my way down teach and nurture some living element like a plant or an animal or a human being. If I would be a molecule, a water molecule, I would probably be more happy out in the field than being confined in a cage where I would have to be told what to do, what to say, and what to eat and what to drink. So if I would compare myself with the water out in the nature, I would probably have my emotions much more open, much more aware. But also what Veda Austin did is she photographed the water in different species, different sorts. So she photographed city tap water, filtered water, bottled water, and spring water, and you can see a difference in it. So search for her work because she's got some beautiful images comparing those different types of water. And maybe you'll find some answers in her published work. Okay. So there's another question, which is, do I think if the water responds only to human beings, or does it also react to the influence of plants, animals, and the surrounding environment? Well, I would say that it would be very egocentristic if we would say that we would be the only ones influencing something that existed on this planet millions of years before our presence on this planet. So if water brings balance to us, it also can bring balance to the plants and to the animals when they are in direct contact with the same source of life. Because if water is a source of life, I can imagine that if a bird has, or an animal, or a cow, or a horse, if a horse is given the choice to drink water that is free in nature, coming down the creeks or just melting down from the ice mountains, or we give it some bottled water or some chlorinated water, if we give that horse or that animal or that bird the choice, I think that we all know that the answer is that they would prefer the water that is more natural. That is what I would know, or what I would say. But I can tell you one thing, that a couple of years ago, I was in a horse riding center doing my work, and I saw somebody bringing a bucket of water to the horses. And I was nearby, and I wanted to feel how fresh that water was. So out of my innocence, I stuck my hand in that bucket of water. Without saying any further comment, the person that was taking care of the horses looked at me and commented and says, "Oh, the horse is not going to drink that water anymore." And I asked, "Why?" "Because you've put your hand in it." And I said, "You're joking with me." I said, "No." So for me, literally, it was one, like, knowing, like one prescription for myself. I don't know how valid this information is or not, but I took it from me that as soon as a human being puts his hand literally in something that has to be natural, we change the concept, we change the environment, for better or for worse. I don't know. But it was really interesting, and it kept my attention when that person says, "Oh, the horse is not going to drink that water anymore." So I was really shocked by that information, and I felt sorry for myself out of my ignorance. And I don't know if that's valid or not. If you have some information about it, I'm curious about it. The more we learn about what water has to teach us, the better we all can grow and share this knowledge and this information. So I hope that I answered your question, but my feeling is that when we started to walk on this planet, the other animals were already contacting, living, using water, and interfering with water, and also the plants. So plants have also, because they survive out of transporting water through their veins inside and bringing up the nutrients out from the soil and transforming that into what we know as vegetation, fruits, fruitification, etc., you name it. So my feeling is that no, we are not the only ones influencing. Maybe the natural life is influencing it on the positive way with such a capacity. And we as humans, we also are capable of doing that with the best intentions. Like some people did the best intentions and consecrated water And if we go to India and we see the ceremonies that the people do in the Andes River by consecrating and showing respect to that water, many of us probably look at that water and say, I'm not going to go in that water, in that river. Well, but for many thousands of people, they consecrate and they go in there to purify themselves in a water that in our modern civilized world, we see that river and say, that looks dirty. Well, but maybe dirty is not the same as being energized. It's a different concept. There's another question is, um, if I could only give one advice about how in the way we relate and how do I say uh, get involved with water, what would that be? Well, actually, we are now in 18th of June, and for the majority of us that are now listening, we are entering the so-called summer period. So that means that we are all going to refresh ourselves during our holidays, or even just stopping in during the day to refresh ourselves, to cool ourselves, whether it's in the ocean or in a river or in a swimming pool. Well, I have a practice that I try to do as much as possible. Is, for instance, before I enter the ocean or a lake to dive or to swim or just to refresh myself, I have this habit that I do. So I take a bit of water and I look at it. I worship it, and sometimes I even kiss the water. So that is what I do. What you do, I don't know. If you don't do anything special, well, that's up to you. But I do know that sometimes I even speak to the ocean, and I express my emotions to whoever I love. I give thanks to that abundant sea of water that we have for us, for all of the human life, animal life, plant life in this planet. So without this abundance of water, and that's why I'm so keen on preserving the natural resources, because without water we can't survive. And knowing that the water can also be a vehicle for emotions and feelings and intentions, wow, then maybe we are probably touching a particle that can go beyond our level, but that can reach also beyond our limits. Okay, so maybe that's my advice to you, is just to be a little bit more aware. Not that we will have to be so greedy about water that my glass of water is only for me and I will not share it to anyone. No, it's just, okay, I know that I have enough for me, but I'm not going to destroy the natural presence and existence and quality of the water. So I'll do whatever I can to make it so that I'm not damaging emotionally, physically, chemically, bacteriologically the environment, the water environment around me. So that's my advice, how to behave with water. So physically, emotionally, and intentionally. Thank you for that question. There's another question is, what was the moment that I realized that I was facing something really extraordinary? What do you mean by that? That water is extraordinary, or that what I'm sharing with you about this capacity of water being a vehicle of information? What is exactly that? If you can, oh, both. Okay, thank you. Well, you make my life easy. Okay, so I believe that there was one moment, and I believe I shared it with you in a previous event, that my mother used to say that when I barely could speak fluently, I said once to some neighbors, out of nothing, that when I was in my mother's womb, that every time that she drank water, I was like happily splashing inside my mother's belly. Well, of course, this is probably not what happened. But I don't know why and where this information came from. So maybe my obsession with water, you can call it an obsession, um, or my passion. So maybe that came already even before I was born. So, answering your question, when was the moment that I realized that I was in front of something really exceptional? Probably even before I was born. But it came to me more and more when I started working with water, when life brought me with all of the circumstances and coincidences or God incidences, you call it whatever you wish. So I was actually led and brought, and I allowed myself to accept all of the ins and outs, the ups and downs that my professional life has given me up to this moment, in order for me to be now preaching to you and bringing to you an awareness that I did not know until a couple of weeks ago, that water can reflect information, that water can register, record, and stable and fix information regarding the present, the past, but also the future, as you will see once you go further deeper into what Vida Austin expressed. And if you want, I can share with you something that she was also very um excited about, because she was once doing one experiment, and what she did is she took the water, the sample of water, and she just put her own finger inside, like the example I was giving about my hand in the bucket of the water for the horses. And then she froze that part of the water, and then when she photographed it, she could see on the image a perfect drawing, like when you do a drawing just with the pencil. And the drawing was exactly a finger with a nail, but the particularity on that is that there was like a split, a chip cut in that nail. And she was like, oh, that's curious. And on that same day, a couple of hours later, she was doing something, and she cracked her nail. So probably the water knew already what was going to happen. Well, this can sound a little bit crazy. I was with my eyes and mouth open as I was listening to this podcast and this interview of her that she made publicly and that she also published in her books. And I was like, okay, now you're going too far. Now I want to know more about this. So there was those two moments. One, it was the moment that water is really something special, and that it's not an okay and something out of nothing that I do what I do and that I'm so passionate about water. But also, that was one moment that I said, okay. And as you can remember, if you search some information about the work that we've been doing, a couple of months or years ago, I was visiting a Portuguese village called Mertula that was occupied not only by Christians but also by Muslims, and even before those invaders or those occupants. And even the Romans used that city with a very purpose, but to do ceremonies, and they had some baptisterium and also some other features and some other historical places related with sacred segregation of water and ceremonies around water. So if you are interested, search for our work that we did in Mertula, and I will also ask my team to refresh that and to put a link on our social media so that you can go back. And probably if you have never been in Mertula, or if you want to know more about the importance of water throughout many different civilizations, many different people that have occupied Mertula, and the importance of the water in the river, especially in that particular space, search for it, go for it. And for sure it's worth visiting and it's worth exploring. So that's what I wanted to bring up to you. So if there's any more question, please do it now. Otherwise, I'm going to thank you for being there, and also to thank you for following our work. And I want to say to you that I love and I'm really enjoying feeling myself as a 4 or 5 year old learning child with an open mind, all ready to learn everything that water wants to teach me. So I'm an open heart, open book, and open mind to learn more about this, because I believe that we know very little about the power that the water can carry. So there is one question and it says, after so many years studying water, did I change anything on my daily habits related to the sensitivity of the water? Yes. I now speak with water in my silent prayers more than I ever done before. And I put the intentions on it. And in the morning or in the evening, when I drink a glass of water, by knowing that even Christ or Buddha or the yogis, they also do that before just drinking water, just like that. Take a moment, do a kind of like a silent meditative moment for you, even if it's just an intention, just like looking at the water, being grateful for the benefits that that water can do to you when you are drinking it, and thanking the water before any swallow, before any sip. Just be grateful for what power that H2O plus intention can do to your healing, your process, your emotions, your state, your inner state. And so, yes, that has changed in the last weeks the way I drink water, the way I take a shower, and more important, the way I interact with water when I go to refresh myself in the ocean, for instance. So, yes, it has influenced a lot. And also, when I'm doing water treatment, I now try to interact not only with the physical aspect, with the chemical aspects, with the treatment systems, but also in the way that we also can intend. There's another question. Is there any simple experiment that anyone can do home to observe that phenomenon? Yes, there is. And there are also many other people like me that also follow the teachings of how Vida Austin explains this in her Instagram, in her website. So I am going to study for myself, and once I get that under control, I'm going to do one live with you. But meanwhile, go, and the internet is a vast universe of information, like water can be, according to what we've been discussing today. So search for it, go for it, and the more you discover, share it with us. Do your own experiments. What she told, or what she explains, is that you just take a little bit of water, like she explains that it's like a soup, a quantity of how does this is called, a soup spoon, and you just put that water that you want to analyze or photograph, you put it in there, you do your intentions, or you put a word underneath, and you let it stay for a couple of seconds, and then you freeze. You bring this to your freezer. The time in a normal freezer that she recommends is 5 minutes and 20 seconds, and then afterwards you remove the excess of water, so you see that the water is kind of like like a viscous liquid, like a plasma liquid. So it's not fully liquid as the water that you drink, but it's not yet solid. And you see the crystallization of the ice forming. And when it's forming, it will reflect some pattern, some image. Okay, and but I'm not the expert on that yet, but I want to be, and I want to do those experiments. So the more I learn about this, the more I will share with you, but also on the reverse. So if you do the experiments, take the photographs and send it to me, because I did some experiments earlier, and I'm just going to put this on my screen font, and I'm just going to answer. I'm just going to show you. And let me see if I can get that, because I'm also you. Okay, I took some pictures, and so this is, I hope you can see. I hope I can put this in a. So this was a picture that I took just with my phone. And sorry, I'll try and search for a better one that we can visualize. It's difficult to go. And so you can see that this looks like a graphic. This is difficult for. Okay, maybe you can see. Okay, how did I do it? I just took the camera of my phone, and I put the camera just like this, making so that the center of the picture was focusing. No enlargement, no enshortment. So just taking the picture as it is, and then I was able to photograph the ice forming. But I could not get it in the plasma form, so I did not do it right. So I just wanted to try it out this afternoon, and I must be honest with you, I did not have the time yet to go deeper into acquire the right knowledge to do this experiment. I already sent an email to Veda Austin explaining that I was sharing this content with you people. And I want now to go deeper in it. And I believe that she has podcasts teaching how to do it. There are already some other followers that teach her method, so that you and I can do this in our own kitchen. Okay, so that's the what I wanted to bring up to you. So this is not discrediting any other work from any other scientific minds that have measured the intention, the energy, the structure of the molecule. No, this is just to bring you so that we don't need to be a lab scientist and have all of the laboratory instruments. We can do it ourselves, and we can experiment it ourselves, and understand that if water has this capacity of observing information, energy, then it can also transport that to somebody else. So if somebody gives me water with a positive intention, with a positive healing intention, with good emotions, I believe that that water can probably be better for me than somebody that says, here's your water, drink it. Maybe I'm going too far. I don't know. So that is what I wanted to bring to you on this live. So I hope you enjoyed this content. It's a little bit out of the practical one-to-one adding, subtracting, multiplying, cleaning, filtering, purifying water, recycling water that we normally do every day with you, with your projects. But this is going a little bit further. So I want to spend in the next months and in the next time a little bit of time also on this information that I'm now bringing into myself. So I want to share it with you as well. That means that next month we're going to be live on YouTube. And because we're going to be already in the midst of summer, especially here in Portugal, That means that our life is going to be related to recycling water that we normally shower away too often during the summer. How can we recycle as much as possible so that we don't have to exhaust the natural resources of our fresh water from our planet? So all of the wastewater, how can we revert that into water for irrigation or for other purposes? Okay, so it's not going to be about this subject, but in between, I want to dare you to go deeper and go a little bit more intentional with water if you wish. So thank you for this live, and thank you to be there with us, and see you in our next events. All the best. Termino.